So last week's session was easily one of the best sessions of D&D I've ever played in my life. This is not a tier list video, but if it were, it would absolutely be in the S rank of the tier list. It was incredible. This week's session was not on that par, but then again it was doing a very different thing. Basically, this session was incredibly combat focused, incredibly off the books, as it were. There was a lot of DM originals in this session, because ultimately this session was all about getting our newest party member into the team, getting him up to speed, getting him familiar with everyone else in the party, and also just making him aware of just how hard this campaign can be at times, just how brutal it is when it comes to combat. Because yes, this session we had a new player at the table, and it was great, it was wonderful. We've been waiting a long time for him to come out of hospital. We're really glad that he's back with us again and feeling a lot better. And yeah, really you can boil this session down into two sections. We are technically on the 9th floor of Dungeon of the Mad Mage, which is Dwarmacore, the wizard school. I'm not saying that word correctly, I know I'm not, I don't care. I haven't read it, so I'm just repeating what I hear. I think it's Dwarmacore. So it's a wizard school, and basically the first half of the session was really just us meeting this new member of our party, and then the second half of the session was us arriving at this wizard school. Didn't really do much outside of that, but again, doesn't really matter. So the first part, first of all, we met this new character. His name is Hargle. He's a dwarf, like me, and unlike me, he's a chef. He's actually a battle master fighter, but mechanically he is a chef, and his shield is just like a giant wok. Pretty sure that's bad for the flavour there, but anyway, he uses it as a shield, and then he cooks in it afterwards. And what does he cook? He cooks the monsters that he kills. And so the way he was introduced to us, the wizard that we had encountered on the floor above, the necromancer Castis, he was chasing Hargle through the corridor, and he's summoning some monsters to get rid of him and calling him a thief and some sort of ne'er-do-well. And of course we knew this wizard. We didn't particularly like the guy, so we kind of stepped in, tried to protect this fellow dwarf, managed to fight off the monsters, and afterwards, you know, we had some nice lobster bisque out of what he killed. They were chulls that had been summoned out of shrimp. That was really the start of things. We got to meet him. We kind of introduced ourselves to him. There's a bit of, you know, team forming, which is quite important in any sort of campaign. During this process, Gorn, that's me, I got a chance to showcase just how this cursed axe that I have attuned to in the previous session. If you remember, I found a berserker axe and I have attuned to it. And so between the last session and this one, my personality, it's fair to say, has shifted quite a lot. My priorities have shifted, but this is the interesting thing, because it's a cursed weapon. I'm not aware that they've shifted. And so for the first part of this session, I'm acting very weirdly around my axe, basically talking to it, muttering around it, just constantly polishing it and sharpening it, and like, yes, my pretty, yes, we're gonna, oh, what's that? You wanna bathe in the blood of enemies? Soon, my pretty. He's like this, you know? But the thing is, half of the party have only really just met Gorn, so they don't realise that this is unusual behaviour for him. The only person in the party who's kind of like, that's a bit weird behaviour, is Mama Leota. And she doesn't care, because she's very selfish and she's a drow. And so she's just like, oh, he's acting weird. Not my problem. A few times the people at the table, you could see they really wanted to like roll insight checks or be like, do I realise that something's weird here with Gorn's behaviour? And the DM had to keep stepping in and being like, no, like your character has only known this guy for about 2 hours because your first session was last week, you know? Stop metagaming. This is normal behaviour as far as you're concerned. I love it. Thank you, DM, for allowing that to continue. So yeah, so that was the first part of the session. After this, then we had kind of united as a group. We knew that there was this wizard school up ahead. That was where this chef dwarf Hargle had come from, and so he was able to tell us, oh, there's a wizard school up ahead. We went that way, and we ended up going through the front doors because we were like, well, we want to. We're not skulking around down here. They know we're coming, so let's just go through the front doors. So we proceeded down this corridor where there were some like statues. And on each statue, there was a different kind of school of magic inscribed onto it. And it was one of those tasks where you just basically need to do a spell of that school of magic and it lights up. However, there were 2 statues showing schools of magic that we were not familiar with, the completely unusual, unknown ones. And after doing a bit of arcana checks and things, one of them is still a school of magic that we don't know. One of them, it appears, is a school of magic of love. A DM special there. And like I said, we were doing different spells to try and light up these statues. And Gorn, in this moment, looking at this statue of love, he takes off the hummingbird necklace that he purchased for Bolene all those sessions ago. Bolene being someone, of course, that he cared about very deeply. But he doesn't care about her anymore because he's only caring about his axe. And so he's like, well, this is a symbol of something I used to love. Let's see how this works. It's magical. Puts it around the neck of the statue. Statue lights up. He's like, job done. There we go. Lovely. And here, Mama Leota is like, now this is really weird now. There's definitely something going on here. She takes the necklace for herself, by the way. But she's like, yeah, there's definitely something a bit suspicious here. But anyway, then we proceed inside the school, and this is really the back half of the session because as soon as we enter, all of the students, it's kind of like a gymnasium or something, and the students were clearly kind of waiting for us to arrive. And they as soon as we stepped in, they announced the food fight will now begin. Again, I think this is a DM creation. A DM can be a little bit wacky at times. He likes kind of weird shenanigans, and so he's like, let's have a food fight. And so he had some animated food, which was all basically jellies of various forms. There was like black puddings and ochre jellies and a gelatinous cube. And they just kind of plopped down out of these pipes in the ceiling and started attacking. And the students were trying to fight them off as well. And it was all like one big food fest, really. Very weird. And so we were fighting those off. It was going quite well. However, during this fight, Gorn did actually get hit. And the key feature of the Berserker axe kicked in. That feature being, in case you don't know, it makes you go berserk. If you get hit, you are no longer able to see the difference between friend and foe, and the only thing you can do is attack with your axe. Funny thing is, I was in melee combat at the time with a creature that was immune to slashing damage, and every time you slash it, it just divides. And so I'm going berserk, and every single turn I'm just slashing and slashing and slashing. No damage being done. This creature's just dividing. Again, Mama Leota's looking at this like, now this is really weird. Like this guy is a grumpy sod, but he's not stupid. Like, why is he just attacking it like this? And then, of course, once the rest of the party had taken out this creature that I'm in melee combat with, then I turn. Well, actually, it's a dice roll to see which way I go. It's 50-50. But then I turn on Mama Leota herself, and I start attacking her. And I justify it by saying, because I think she actually dealt with one of the black puddings that I was fighting against. And so I turn on her, and I'm just like, oh, how dare you interfere? You're always interfering. You killed Halden. He was one of the best members of our party, and you murdered him with your wonder fireballs. And so I start attacking her, and I bring her down. And at this point, the rest of the party are like, whoa, okay, there's something clearly going on with Gorn here. So now the other newest member of the party, the Dragonborn Artificer, he pulls out his gun and he tries to shoot me in the knees, to kneecap me and kind of cripple me. Not a mechanic in D&D, But, okay, he shot me. And so then, of course, Gorn takes down Mamaliota. She's unconscious on the ground. I could have finished her off there and then. I should have finished her off there and then, but I didn't finish her off there and then, because then I turned on the Artificer, and I'm like, you just shot me in the kneecaps, you traitor! I knew we shouldn't have trusted you! You're a newcomer to our party! You're gonna betray us all! And so I start attacking him as well. Anyway, at this point, the rest of the gelatinous cubes and everything have been taken down, and so then it's just 3 against 1 because everyone just gangs up on me, and they're able to easily take me down, which is fine. I don't mind. But in the meantime, our newest dwarven colleague, Hargle, I think he was just like, I have no idea what's going on here, and he just kind of noped out of there. And so he actually left the party where we're starting things in this next session. He's not with us at the moment. He's in the next room over. He went through the doors and saw like a notice board with all the different classes on there. And the DM has clearly gone through a lot of trouble here. He's clearly created a lot of classes, a lot of different magical things that we can do within this wizard school. I love it. It's great. And so he was looking at the different classes that are available, and then he just kind of went off in the direction of one of them. And that just left us to kind of have a short rest. And we'll see where it picks up next session, because of course Gorn is now stabilized. I asked the DM to roll my death saves. He rolled 2 death saves for me. One of them was a nat 1. So he was like really nervous. Like he almost killed me completely, but it didn't happen in the end, and then I stabilized. There was a successful medicine check made on me, and I stabilized. So yeah, I think next session I will probably come back with like 1 HP after like an hour of unconsciousness. Is it something like that? I can't remember the exact rule for when you're stabilized, but it's something like that. So let's hope there's no more combat next session. But yeah, so between that session and next week, the DM has asked us to have a think about if there's anything in this magical school that our characters would be interested in studying. Which of these lessons that he's created would we be interested in taking part in? And so I had a good think about this, and I had to come back to the DM and say to him, I'm really sorry to be an absolute nightmare here, but I'm fairly sure that as things stand, Gorn isn't going to want to take part in any of these lessons. And I will explain why. So, reason number 1 is that coming back to consciousness, he will realize that he just went on this murderous rampage and tried to take out half of his party. He will realize that he's never done that before. Gorn is not a nice guy, but he's not evil. He would never like stab people in the back like that. So clearly, it must be something about this place, this school. There must be some evil voodoo in the air that's making him turn on the rest of the party, because he's never done that before. Why would he? It must be the place that's at fault. Yeah, you follow my logic on this one. Second reason. I was like, well, you know what? Like, I was having a think about this wizard school itself and the fact that it exists. And I'm like, 2 levels above where we are right now, there is a literal wizard killer. There is a man who has been employed by Hallister himself to go around the whole dungeon and murder any wizards that he finds. That is literally his function. He is a wizard assassin. And yet, here we have a school full of wizards. That's pretty suspicious. And more to the point, we know already about this dungeon, no one can teleport in or out of the Undermountain. It is impossible. There is like some sort of lock on this place, an arcane lock. It is impossible to teleport in here without the express permission of Hallister Blackcoat. Where have all of these students come from? Where have all of these teachers come from? Do they go home for the summer to see their friends and family? Do they? What happens when they graduate? Where does the funding come from? These questions are going through Gorn's mind at the moment. Where are the toilets? Anyway, right? And then, of course, there's the fact that there are now two completely unknown schools of magic here, and Gorn is fairly sure that one of those schools of magic that we weren't able to identify, that must be the one that made him go crazy and attack the party. And let's finally remember that we have previously met some students from this school in the Undermountain. What were they doing? Oh, they were just a bunch of jocks that were like bullying some giants who were completely innocent. They were like ganging up on these giants and attacking them, knowing full well that these giants were very forgetful, and in a couple of hours they will forget that it had ever happened. So that's the only experience we've had of these guys. Oh, except for the teacher, Castus. Yeah, that wizard who was telling us not to go down to this school. Yeah, we met him. He's a necromancer, and Gorn hates necromancy. So all of these things combined tells Gorn not to trust a single thing in this place, that it is not a good thing. And right now, it's going to be a very interesting session next week, because now Gorn doesn't trust anything around him. No one is going to trust Gorn anymore. We've got a new member of the party here who hates the undead just as much as my character does, and is picking up on the fact that Gorn himself is not exactly altogether alive. I'm not undead, but I did die, and there is something of the undead about me. So that's going to be a very interesting Gordian knot to unpick next week. This session itself, as I say, was very much just a kind of welcome to the chaos, new member of the party. This is how we roll here, and it was great, and I loved it. It was lots of fighting, lots of combat, lots of opportunities to kind of do a little bit of role playing and just finding that status quo between the party and how they all work together. Next week, I think, is when it's all going to kick off properly. So with that in mind, take care, have a great week, and yeah, keep on rolling. Is that how I finish these now?